So here we go. Hit record and we'll get started. Okay. Hi, I'm Michelle Banger, Managing Editor of Quality. I'm here today with Alyssa Rodriguez, PhD. She's the director of the Alaska Manufacturing Extension Partnership Center. So thank you for joining us today, Alyssa.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Sure. So just to start off with, can you tell us a little more about your work with the MEP?
Oh, yeah. I go back to the beginning. Our MEP it started July 1st of 2019. And so we were just starting to kind of figure out who we are and what we did when COVID hit. And so it was maybe an interesting time to say the least to kind of I come of age as an MEP. Um, and had a lot of opportunities for us to be really involved in trying to help people make PPE and get PPE and all those different things. But then, once that was over, then we were again trying to figure out like, okay, so who are we? Who are we? What do
Mm-hmm.
we do? We have a lot of other MEPs to look to for guidance and that sort of thing. But what's particular to Alaska? What does Alaska need, and is it different, or is it really a lot of what the other centers kind of need? And so, yeah, we've been honing in on it for the last couple of years, and I'm feeling like we got it. Feeling
Good,
like we
good.
understand, a lot more about what our manufacturers need and how we can help them and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, great. And so you yourself, can you tell us how you got interested in manufacturing?
Yeah. So I had kind of an interesting path to get here. My background is in forestry, forest management, economics. And then I was lucky enough to find a position in Alaska back in 2007 that was as a labor economist, which was really wonderful because it gave me a lot of experience and understanding of Alaska's economy as a whole. And I would say, really like a lot of other Alaskans, I didn't pay too much attention to manufacturing. So in my head at the time, manufacturing was really seafood processing. So there was seafood processing and then not really much else. And I would say I probably held that view for a while until we wrote an article about like other manufacturing, and it still realized it was really small compared to the rest of our economy, our labor market, etc. But the the depth and kind of variety of manufacturing was really astonishing to me. And there's so much more that we make in Alaska than I had really ever thought of. And then very shortly after that article came out, I had an opportunity to go and work with um, again inside the state, but their division of economic development. So I was really excited to do that. And in that position, I oversaw the Made in Alaska program. And a lot of other states have similar programs where they really highlight what's made there. And that was again just kind of another eye opener in terms of all of what is made in Alaska, big and small. Because and I'm sure again this is very similar to other states, but our manufacturers are proud to have products that are made in Alaska. And so it doesn't matter if they're, huge vessels or if, they're crocheted pot holders, like people are putting in for those permits and they're getting their Made in Alaska logo on whatever they are making. And so even that was just a really big eye opener in terms of, yeah, how many people touch manufacturing from the perspective of being a manufacturer. And then a lot of what we did while I was over there related to manufacturing was trying to make sure people could connect with it. And so now that I had, my eyes open to all that we made here, we wanted to make sure that other people did too, that they could find the products that they needed, that they knew what was made here, and had that aha moment, kind of similar aha moment about what do we do related to manufacturing in Alaska. So again, very fun. And then while I was in that position, we've had other MEPs in Alaska over the years that really haven't worked out for one reason or another. And I had the opportunity to kind of learn about MEPs while I was there, and tried to kind of work with the one that was here previously through the Made in Alaska program, but then called up some of the other MEPs and was like, "Hey, tell me about this." Like, I talked with the Patty in Montana. I was like, "What is the MEP? What do you do? What does yours look like? What kind of partnerships do you have? And the same with a handful of other states, just to learn more about, wait a minute, this isn't just, oh, this program that's in Alaska. This is nationwide. Like, wait a minute. And then again, like within a couple of years, heard that one was going to open at the university. The university was going to host the MEP. And I thought, man, that would be really cool. That would be a really cool program. I saw so much potential, and just kind of as my kind of career evolved, I was just becoming more and more involved in manufacturing, and getting more and more excited about everything we did make, everything we could make, the potential that was within that sector, and had really kind of had an evolution in my mindset about manufacturing, and about how I went from, we really don't make much here, and there's seafood processing and not really much else, to this, my eyes are open, and I'm a true believer. We make all these amazing things here, and there's so much potential. And when we compare ourselves to other states, some of the other states have had MEPs for decades. Their manufacturers had somewhere to go if they had questions, if they had needs, just to learn, like, what does it mean to be a manufacturer? And ours haven't. And a lot of people still don't know that we exist. That's still something that we're really trying to work on. That if you're manufacturing, anything in Alaska, there is a place for you to go. There's a center. You can start here, and we will direct you. If we don't do it in-house, we will partner with you. We'll walk you through. And I really think that by having easy access to those resources, the knowledge, the community, we're really trying to work hard to grow community when it comes to manufacturing Alaska. I think that we will see our manufacturing sector grow and flourish more than we have in the past, just because they can get support in a way that they hadn't been able to in the past.
Yeah.
Very long answer.
No, yeah, it makes so much sense. I mean, you always hear about things like skilled labor and recruiting, and all these programs that takes kind of a village to help that industry. So
yeah. Well, and that's a great point. Is it's not even just like, oh, well, the MEP has services, but Department of Labor has all sorts of services, and the Small Business Development Center has services, and there's so many resources that to be able to know, I mean, as a small business owner, medium-sized business owner, to be able to know about all the resources and have the time to access them, it's really, really challenging. And so to be able to go somewhere, talk to an advisor that you trust, and just tell them what's going on with your business. And then at the moment you need it, they can be like, okay, so there's this resource, here, or here, as opposed to, here, I'm going to give you this giant booklet. Here's everything you need. Read through it and talk to me later. It really is, okay, what do you need right now? Okay, let's tackle it. What do you need, 3 weeks, 3 months from now? Let's tackle that. So yeah, the help you need when you need it and can actually use it.
Definitely. That's important. So for people who are sort of thinking about manufacturing, is there any advice you kind of give people, or you kind of think might help them if they're considering it, for women or other people or anyone in general?
Yeah, I think I tend to be very encouraging when it comes to people who are interested in manufacturing. It is so satisfying to make something. On a big scale, or even on a small scale, so many of us, what we do as a hobby is in some, way, shape, or form, micro manufacturing. We knit, we do woodworking, we do pottery, we paint. We're making something because we all know it feels good to make something, to have a physical representation of our labor, even if it's leisure time labor. And so I see why people are drawn to manufacturing and want to offer what they have out to the world in that way. And so yeah, we very encouraging when it comes to manufacturing. At the same time, we want to be realistic about the challenges. And so, let's look at what what do you think your customer base is going to look like? And, let's go ahead and do some customer research to make sure that people want what you've got. because if they don't, we want to make sure we know that quickly and we can move on to the next great idea that you have. We can tweak the product so that it's useful, that sort of thing. But the other one, as people just start, we've met a lot of folks, and I think I've mentioned someone before, Lynn Peterson, who, they don't see themselves as manufacturers. And we come up with that. We run into that a lot as well when we're talking to people. You can kind of see this light bulb go off and they're like, oh, well, I make barbecue sauce and I manufacture it, or, sorry, they don't say that. They say I make barbecue sauce, I bottle it, label it, whatnot, and we sell it, at this market or that market, or I sell it to my friends or I give it to my friends, and they've really said that I should sell it. So I think there's a lot of people who are kind of right on the edge, who just aren't certain about it. And I think a little bit more knowledge, understanding, it would be something that more people would get into. And we see a lot of food manufacturing in Alaska. That's the largest. Even when you pull out seafood processing, what's left, the biggest percentage of our manufacturing is food and beverage. And I think part of that is because it's so connected to us every day. We manufacture our own food and beverages every day, when we make our meals and feed ourselves. And so it's not a big stretch to say, oh wow, everybody really likes my whatever this is recipe. Well, maybe I could sell that. Yeah, maybe you could. And let's go ahead and see if that's going to work out for you. So yeah, just let's give it a whirl. Let's investigate it. Let's see what your business plan might look like, and put pen to paper and try and see if we can make it real.
Definitely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to have someone helping you out and not just guessing and, leaping into the unknown, a little more advice.
Yeah. Just to think through it a little bit more, and ask some of the questions that I think can be really helpful. Because sometimes we doubt ourselves and we don't think we can do it. And it helps to have somebody there who's really encouraging. And on the other hand, sometimes we just get so excited about what it is that that we're going to make, that we fail to see that, there's only a small percentage of the population that's going to want this, Alaska shaped crocheted pot holder, and just different things like that. And so we need to be excited and passionate with a dose of, reality and that sort of thing, and making sure we test it, because we also don't want people to invest, all their savings into something that just isn't going to work out. We want to help people make good choices and give them the data they need to make those really important decisions.
That makes a lot of sense. And so with the manufacturers you talk to, are there any trends you've noticed lately, or things people are concerned about more, or anything like that?
Well, and hiring is a really big one. So labor in general, and it's both recruitment and retention. That's been a really big one that we've seen. And then Alaska, we have a really fractured kind of logistics and supply chain within our state. And so that's something else that comes up quite often. And we have seen a lot of, well, maybe not a lot, but we have seen a handful of new businesses pop up to try to address some of those issues, because, there'll be a city 3 hours away, 6 hours away, and we can't get their goods here. So, there's an awesome bagel place. I will only get their bagels when I travel there myself, because nobody's bringing them up here on a regular basis. And there's just some of those things that really seem like we should be able to manage this. Like there is a solution. We just need to find it. And that's why we've seen a lot of businesses cropping up to try to manage that, because it's ludicrous that we're in a state, and we are a very big, geographically dispersed state. But when you've got these amazing products being made in state, and you really can't get it to other parts of your state reliably, especially when it's food, and we've got a lot of food security issues up here. Those are things that we really want to tackle. But yeah, when labor and logistics are a lot of what we see. Yeah, I would say those are two of the biggies. And then cost. Just, we are a high cost place to operate during kind of regular / normal times. So if you layer on top of that any issues with your supply chain, cost of labor going up, any of those sorts of things, cost of fuel going up, like it really, really impacts how cost effective it is to make things here, and compete. Because even if you don't ship things out of state, you're still competing on a global market, because your consumers can get something from anywhere. And so we really, really try to help our manufacturers be cost competitive to the extent that they can. And everybody's going to give you a little bit of grace on price, who's in state because they want to purchase something local. So, I think in general, consumers will give you a little bit of grace. And then out of state, for certain products, it carries weight that it comes from Alaska. It was tested here. It's made of Alaskan products or Alaskan inputs, that sort of thing. And so in those cases, again, you can get a little bit of leeway on the price that people will accept. And so, but there's only a little bit. And so we really need to make the most of it and try to contain the rest of the cost. So that's something else that is a big concern for people and something we really try to help them out with.
Makes sense. I feel like no matter where you are, people always are talking about labor and supply chain and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, which I found interesting that like we are a different state. We're far away. We're really big, really spread out. But at the same time, so much of what we face is what everybody else faces. And that's just kind of at the heart of I think being a manufacturer are, things like labor and costs and logistics. Like it's just inescapable that everybody's going to have some level of challenge with that. So yeah.
Definitely. In your work, are there any certain issues that you've been like researching or working on more lately that's come up?
I'm trying to, yes, we've been doing a lot more with food safety. And really, again, because so many of our food manufacturers are, or I'm sorry, so many of our manufacturers are food and beverage manufacturers, they need a lot of help with it. And, our state is doing as much as they possibly can to kind of help people through the process, but they just don't have the staff to be able to, kind of handhold and walk people through the process. And so we are doing that as much as we can and really trying to increase our kind of internal depth of knowledge so that we can help people more efficiently, more effectively. And we've kind of doubled down on a lot of the things that we did before. But really, again, trying to increase like what is the depth of knowledge that we possess as it relates to different topics. And so, what are new sales strategies that are coming up? How are people connecting people with others? How are they cutting through the noise and that sort of thing? Because again, our manufacturers, no matter the size, they compete on a global market. And so how can we help them to do that better? So some of the things that have been really interesting that we've really been trying to understand and increase our knowledge on up here. Again, food safety is a big issue in Alaska, and trying to better understand what does that look like in Alaska? What does our food ecosystem look like? And there are people who've been doing that work for a very long time. So that's something that we as the Alaska MEP are trying to better understand the work that's already been done so that we understand how we can situate ourselves in that space to be of assistance instead of coming in and asking others to educate us. What can we do to get ourselves educated so that we can come in and be of service as quickly as possible? Yeah, that's some of what we've been working on.
Yeah, it sounds great. It's so interesting, all the different MEPs and like you said, talking to others and what people are working on. And yeah.
Something else I forgot to mention, community. That's been a really big one for us. We don't have really an active manufacturing association in Alaska. And so there isn't really a space where manufacturers come together to just know each other, learn from each other, collaborate, and those sorts of things. And so we've had things happen in the past where we got a panel together to have a panel discussion, and it turned into like an impromptu networking, session. And I think part of it is just because people are so hungry for that. And so one of our staff members, Megan Militello, has been really instrumental in creating community and creating spaces to cultivate community. And so we've had a handful of manufacturing mixers, and we're spreading that out. We're going to host them in different places in the state, again, because we're so spread out. We don't expect people from Fairbanks to come, the 6-hour drive or 1-hour flight to get down here to participate. We want to make sure that they are getting that community building happening in their community, and the same with the Kenai Peninsula and different places. And so that's really something that we're trying to focus on, is how can we help to cultivate community amongst manufacturers. We can't expect to know everyone, but if we can figure out and understand who our kind of key community members are across the state when it comes to manufacturing, I think that could really be key in helping more manufacturers, because then we will know who do other manufacturers kind of naturally go to, who do they reach out to when they've got a question and that sort of thing. And if we can know that, then I think we can empower them to have more information to help on their own, or to to direct people to other services and maybe take the burden off them a little bit, because they still have another job they do. But understanding how does our network function, in terms of communication across manufacturers, is something we're really interested in looking into and trying to better understand, and at the same time helping to really create those networks.
Good. Yeah, so interesting. Just interesting hearing about a local Alaska, work, and then, thinking about other places too, because, of course, most other states, it's not a 6-hour drive to another
Yeah,
city, but, some are big like that. So you never
yeah,
know. So,
yeah, yeah.
mm,
And I think, and it's not, craving community is not unique to Alaska at all. I think there may be cases where again, due to our geography or something like that, we're a bit more isolated. But even if we are in a larger city, that isolation can still exist. Just because you kind of get nose down in your own work, um, you just don't come up for air that often. And so giving people a reason to get out and meet other people and connect, I think, can be very important, maybe more important than we previously realized.
yeah, definitely. I feel like all these, associations and, quality groups or other things that we work with, it's so nice. People have their community, and, you see the same people every year, and it's really
Yeah,
a nice group.
yeah.
So good. So yeah, I think those are the main questions I want to touch on with you, but is there anything else you want to mention about your work or the center?
Um, Gosh, oh, I mean, it's been really interesting to start a center, from scratch, and try to connect with people, and get people to open up enough to understand what is it that you can help with. Especially when you don't really have much of a track record to lean on to say, like, hey, we want to help you, but can we help you? And that's one of the fun things I think about kind of being at the stage that we're in right now, is just, I think we're at a stage where we have some history to look back on and say, okay, so this is how we helped a very similar company. We think we can help you in a really similar way. So that's been a fun kind of piece of our evolution. And then just a kind of better understanding some of the resources, whether it's food safety, whether it's operational excellence, different things like that. In terms of how it can help the business, how it helps us to deliver those services better, but also how so many of these different issues are interconnected. And so how you can use improvements in your operational excellence to expand your potential labor pool. And so, for example, if you institute a visual workplace or something like that, you can do that, and that might open you up to be able to employ people who don't have great English skills. They're not very fluent in English. So that's a whole nother group of people now that you can employ in your facility, because you've set yourself up in such a way that you don't have to be able to communicate as much verbally in order to follow your process. Or maybe it allows you to work with people who have developmental disabilities, or different things like that, again, because it's laid out so well. I don't have to hold the whole process in my head. I can do this part of it, and then when I go to the next place, I can see what I need to do. And so there are so many cool tools like that, that we can employ that help everyone. And while we're busy helping everyone who's currently working for us, no matter their language, no matter their skill level, etc., their disabilities or lack thereof, it can also have the added benefit of, while we're all struggling to find employees, well, now you just increased your pool so much, because you're able to work with folks, who others can't, because they don't have the setup that you do. And so there's a lot of really cool overlap like that where, you can bring in different tools that are going to help your bottom line right now to be more efficient, but then it's going to continue to help you for some time, because of just how interconnected all the different pieces of operating a facility are, and all those different things. So there's some cool stuff happening. Yeah, yeah,
Sounds great. Yeah, I love those examples. It's always nice to hear those concrete stories and make people really relate to those. So that's great.
yeah, yes, cool.
So yeah, that's all the time really we had, but I really appreciate your time today. Really interesting to hear about your work, and keep up the good work. It sounds great.
Thank
And
you. Thank
yeah,
you so much. Yeah, I appreciate getting an opportunity to talk about it and share. Yeah, it's a cool community of folks up here that are making things, out in Alaska and trying to use as much as they can. That's typically from Alaska, and so yeah, it's a really great group of folks to work with. So it's been a lot of fun.
good. Okay. Well, thank you again, Alyssa. I really appreciate your
Yeah,
time.
thank you. It's
Okay.
so great to meet you.
You
Appreciate
too.
it.
Take care.
Bye. You
Bye-bye.
too.